Hi guys, welcome to this video. Today we'll be talking about React components. If you've not watched the previous parts of this series, you should be sure to watch the first episode or video in this playlist, right? Which is basically how to set up your React project. But if you have that set up already, you'd be able to follow along with this tutorial right now. So today we're going to be talking about React components, right? We're going to be building React components. We're going to be testing them out. It would be using some lightweight examples, right? Just for learning purposes strictly. The next thing I want to do for me, right, I want to delete a couple of things just to have a neutral work environment. I want to have a couple of things. So I'll be deleting my index.css file and app.css file. You can leave this if you still like the default styling, you can leave this for sure. Right, actually, let me leave the index.css file here. I'll leave the index.css file here. So I just want to delete the app.css file. Then I would remove it from my imports, remove this, remove this, remove this. So I would also remove this section as well, right? So let me just return a very basic paragraph, by the way. Okay, so I think the other thing I want to try, I have this in editor browser. I want to test if it's going to work for this tutorial. So if it works, I think I would stick to this instead of moving in between dimensions, right? Yeah, so I think it works. So I think I would stick with this. I'll stick with this. Okay, so I would shrink my terminal, right? Then awesome. I think we have more views. We have more space like to view things, by the way. Awesome. So what I want to do here, right? I want to explain what the React components is to you guys. So the first thing you need to understand about React, it's components based, and it's highly recommend everything you do, you keep them modular in a component pattern or in a component structure, right? So the first thing we have here, by default, your root components, right, is a very typical example of a component. A React component is a function that returns a JSX element, right? So for you to call something a React component, it has to return this similar pattern to HTML, but in this case, it's JSX, right? It has to return this. From what you can see, the return type in my function here is of JSX type, and your function needs to start with a capital letter and anything else can follow. Of course, if you follow the standard function naming convention in JavaScript, right? But always make sure your function is starting with a capital letter, right? Awesome. So yeah, now we are going to try to build our own very simple components, right? We are going to build let's try to do a very mimic a simple mimic of a kind of to-do list app, right? If you wanted to build a kind of to-do list, right, this might be a similar pattern you would use. So the first thing you want to do is create a function for your to-do item, right? Then you can return in this case, let's return a div, right? So for this div, I would say let's call this the label that's fix a few words, something like this. Then maybe I want to add a description. I can say check your uh, Gmail for ball reviews or something like that. I don't know. It could be anything like this. I'm just spinning off here. So you can see we have our components here, but how do we render our component on the browser? So you can view using a component, right, as if it's an HTML tag in itself, right? So instead of returning hello in here, I'm going to return this to-do item as my JSX elements, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do to-do item. Then since it doesn't require me to specify some extra contents in it, which we'll be talking about in a minute, right? I'm going to just use a self-closing tag for this, right? So once I save this, you see this comes up in here like this, right? I should have this set up here, which is nice and simple. Awesome. Then the next thing you want to do, maybe you want to add a couple of styling for your projects, then you can come to let's say the index CSS file, right? So but let me see. Do we need to clear up some things? I'm just looking to strip out things we wouldn't be needing, to be honest. So let me just take out these styles. Let me take this out. Let me take this out. Yeah, let me take this out. So I think I want to leave these ones because I like the dark theme they added in here, right? Which is fine. And the link item things, I'm going to take that out as well. The H1 out. So we are left with this, this simple one here. But then I'm not sure I want this content as well. So I'm just going to add a different style. So pardon my CSS, I might make a couple of blunders. I might make a couple of things people would normally do. So in this case, I want to specify 100% width, then my height as well to be 100%. Then in let me see. Okay, awesome. So I think I should remove the defaults, padding, and I think a margin of 0. I think, yeah. So I think I removed that already. Then the next thing I want to do is add a style for my to-do item. So in this case, I'm going to come here and use the class name attribute. So, traditionally in HTML, you use the class attribute, but in this case, you have to use the class name attribute just so it does not collide with the class keyword in JavaScript. So that's, I think, why they use this class name in this case. So we want to create a style for our to do a class for our to do components. We are going to call it to do item like this. So as you can see, there is no styling here really. So what we want to do is we want to come to our index.css file and we'll add a styling for this. So I'll do dot to do item, then expand this. Then the first thing I want to do is add a padding, right? I want to add a padding of say 10 px to this. And actually, let me toggle my autosave extension or my feature or whatever they call it. So yeah, you can see I have this padding added already. Then I want to add a border of say 1 px solid. I think I could go away with white, which is fine, right? So you can see it has the white border already, right? Then the next thing I want to do is for the paragraph inside my to-do item, I want to make it kind of small. Like I want to make it small. I don't want to make it too big, right? Then what do I want to do here? Yeah, so I would do this to do item, then my paragraph. I want to change the font size to say 10 pixel. I don't know. Okay, I think that is where I want it actually, but let me be generous and do something around 14. No, 12. So 12 is fair, I think. 12 is fair. So if you notice, there is also, yeah, I'm looking at what else do we need to change here. Honestly, let's leave this at this, where this is not a CSS tutorial. So yeah, I'm going to leave this at this styling. So you can see this is a very simple way to style your React component. You have a class name, you have a couple of components inside your or elements inside your JSX component as well, right? Awesome. So, but now in this case, we want to add multiple to-do items. So we can do that in this pattern, right? So I would open this, bring this here, but you can see that it's telling us that it does not expect multiple components. You need to return a root component, then render all your components inside that root components. You can't render multiple components in your React components. It has to return one component, exactly one component. So in this case, what you want to do, right? You can either do something like this, a div, You can do this. This is going to work, right? This is one approach to do it. But the reason why you might not want to do something like this is because this is going to be rendering like an extra node in your React tree. So what you want to do instead, you want to use something called a fragment. So a fragment, a React fragment is something like is like a slot that says in this specific component tree, when you get to the rendering, like when you get to the tree, right? Don't render this extra wrapper we are going to be using. Just render this component alone. So by default, the React fragments wouldn't be rendered. Your component would be the only one rendered. I hope that's a good explanation of fragments, by the way. So yeah, so what you want to do here is yeah, a fragment, you can see it as an anonymous component. I think it's safe to call it something like that. Let me call it an anonymous component in React, right? So I would to create a fragment, you just create a JSX without tag names. Basically, this is what you could see nothing changed from here, right? So I think this is another safe way to do React fragments. Although there is like a way you have to import something from React, but we can avoid that for now. Awesome. So you can see from here we have two to do items here, and we can even go ahead and add maybe another extra to do item, right? You can see now we have three, which is nice, right? So, but you notice everything here is the same. We want to change, right? We want to change the content in our to-do item. But of course, like you can't have the same to do in your to-do list, right? They're usually something different, right? So what you might want to do in that case is using something called uh like function parameters, but in this case it's going to look more like component parameters or something like that. But then in React, they occasionally call it props, like component props. So component props is something that it's just like passing arguments to your functions when you are using it when you're using JavaScript like purely, right? For instance, if we were using something like the maths square root function like this. This number here is a parameter and you need to pass an argument to it, right? So you can pass here, you can pass 4. Like this is going to check the square root of 4 for you, right? So let me zoom this in a bit. This is going to check the square root of 4, right? But in this case, if a function for a function parameter rather for components is slightly different in the sense that you have to use a named you have to use something like an object, right? Yeah, you have to use an object. This is recommended you use an object. So what you want to do in here is specify your props, right? You can use any name for it, but I like to follow standard conventions. You can use this props syntax. So what I want to do first is I want to use the title. I want to get the title, and also I want to get a description, which I will just shorten for DESC. Right. So this is also going to be of a string type as well. So the next thing I want to do is come to this block here, and I would do props dot title. Then in this next section, I want to do props dot description, right? As you can see, everything here is coming empty, right? And if you notice as well, I have some errors in my JSX elements, which says type is missing the following properties. So I need to add my title and I need to add my description because they are required by the component. So to do that, I can do something like this. I can do title, let me say fix 20 bucks. Then for the description, I could say check GitHub reviews, something like that, right? Then for the other items as well, I can say write um write test cases. Then description, I can say use previous reference, something like that. I mean, I'm just writing things that probably doesn't make sense here, but you guys get the idea. So for the other title here, I can do um upload the React videos. Then for the description, you have to edit it first, something like that. Yeah, let me just use this share one. You have to edit it. So you can see we have different items right in our to-do list, right? So another thing we want to do, right, before we even do anything else, usually you don't want to keep your um maybe you want to add a couple of styling for your to-do list layouts. From what you can see here, I mean, I want to add like some kind of padding around these components, but I don't want to use a margin. Like I want to add a space, right? I want to do some styling basically around it. So I want to create a layout for this to do item, right? So, or to do items to be specific. So what I want to do is I want to create a to-do list component. So the to-do list component is going to contain everything I have in here, right? Which is actually a very simple way to go right. So what I want to show you is you'd see it in a second, right? So I want to create a to-do list, right? I would have props in here, right? For now, I'll leave the props empty. I want to show you guys something as well. Then I would have a div. I would have a div in here. Let's say I add one to do item here just for testing purposes, right? I have a to do item in here, right? Actually, I'm going to comment this out. So instead of even having let me bring this out and comment it here. So instead of having this fragment, now I can do to-do lists like this, right? So you guys can see I have my first item in here already. But let me add this remaining ones. Let me add this remaining ones as well. But this might not be what you want exactly. Like this usually might not be what you want to do exactly in some cases. So sometimes you just want to use your to-do list components as just a styling container or something similar to like a layout, right? Maybe that's what you want to do sometimes. But to have a like very good way, like a very modular approach to your components structure, right? I would want to show you something you can use, which is called this children props, right? So children is a what they call it is a kind of React JSX pattern where it renders everything you passed inside your component, inside your React tag, right? It renders it inside this parent component. So that might not make sense immediately to you guys. So what I want to do first in here is I want to import a type specifically from React. So that would be React node. So in this case, my children property would be a React node, right? It's going to be a React node, right? Then what I want to do, instead of rendering all of this in here, right? I want to render the children. I mean, this is a debatable way of showing it, but I just want to show you guys the children approach for doing this, like the whole idea of using children as part of your props. So where you want to use is something like let me cut this and just render props dot children, right? From what you can see here, it's empty. And in this case, it says property children is missing in the types, right? So let's add our children property here. I'll show you the good approach and I would show you the manual approach, which nobody uses anyways. So in this case, I can come here and add something like this. Yeah, I think I should be able to add I really do not know. I'm not sure, but let me experiment with this yet. That's not going to work. But I can simply add a fragment in here, and render all my components. From what you can see, this works, right? Right, I have my fragment here. I rendered my to-do items, but this is not the best way to do it, right? By default, the content that would be inside your to-do list tag is going to be the children prop, right? So if you specify a children in your component prop, you can skip this method, right? Instead of using this approach, you can just do something like this. Open your tag, paste your to-do items, then close your tag, and you would have exactly the same results. You can see what I mean in this case now, right? So you are using the to-do list as a layout and you're rendering your items in here. So to create a style for our to-do list, let's create a class name here, call it to-do lists, right? So I would come to my index.css file, then do to-do list in here. Then I want to use a flex. Sorry, I want to use a display of flex. Then I want to do, you see it's side by side automatically, but I don't want that. I want to do flex direction of column. Then I want to add some gap in between my components. So let's try 4 pixel if that works. It's not enough space, so let's do 8 pixel. Right. Yeah, this is enough space. So I want to add some extra padding around my components as well. So I think I should be able to use 8 pixel as well. Yeah, so it's having a kind of uniform spacing with the gapping as well. I'm not a UI UX designer, but I just feel good about that. Yeah, so you can see we have like a layout for our to-do items, and we have our to-do items rendering properly in here. Right, then you can also see from here we use the children property to render our to-do list items in here. Now, you might be wondering, right, we are able to render multiple components in this specific case here, right? So the reason why we are able to do that is because the children property does not enforce us to specify one one component or a root component specifically, right? A React node is basically it can be anything basically, right? From what you can see here, it can be, I think it can be an array of it can be an array of elements, it can be basically anything that is a valid React code, right? It's going to work. So yeah, that is basically how you use this component props, and specifically this children feature is actually a very important one you would use occasionally as you build your React components. So to wrap this up, to give this a more, let me not call it professional approach, but let me say a more, spicy approach, right? We are going to, I think we should do that in the next video instead. All right. So from what we can see here, we built a basic to-do item component. Then we built a to-do list, which is acting as a layout for our to-do items, and we rendered every to-do we have in this case, just like this. Awesome. This is nice. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, to like the channel, and share to other people that might be interested in this kind of content as well. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.